Look at this. It's already updated. It's already ready to go. This is not the last series of the day, or that was not the last series of the day. This might be. We got Beasty versus ZertoN. Game number 1 is on Gorge, and it's going to be Mongols versus Ayubids.
Man, I was I was saying, man, this is a good last series. This is a good last series. Guess what? I'm living rent free right in here, baby. I knew it wasn't the last series. I bamboozled all of you. All 3,300 here in this chat. Beastie versus ZertoN, Mongols versus Ayabids. We're going to see another knockdown, drag out, best of 3. Some bonus content for you guys. I'm excited.
Absolutely. And if y'all been enjoying it, make sure to support the channel. I see some subs coming on in. You can always support in any way you want, whether it's watching, which we appreciate all y'all, whether it's subbing, whether it's jumping on into the Kickstarter to support the bonus goals. But for now, we're going to give you some updates. Group A is completely finished on for the day. So we're gonna kind of give y'all the updates there. Group B is still going on. We're casting the next game. We're gonna see how that one goes on. But Marine Lord 5-0. Louis now technically is up at that top spot there as he has better tiebreakers comparative to Puppy Paw.
Yeah. Which is kind of wild to me too, because Puppy Paw, I mean, we just saw his only loss, and it was against a Marine Lord who is number 1. So even though, I mean, 3rd place obviously still good. It looks like a pretty top heavy bracket. All 5, the top 5, 6 of these guys at 2 and 3 up to 5-0. Any of them obviously have a shot. You have people like Nubidon, CSO, Cat, Recon could make a run for themselves. There's a lot of the group stage left to play.
And look at that, Captain the Real One coming in with 10 gifted, much appreciated. I'm sure all the gifted people are happy. They're not going to have to watch any ads, anything of the sort for the next month or so, and hopefully can maybe gift it on along. But Group A, I mean, both of these groups, just wild to see all the names, wild to see some of these outcomes, some of these kind of placements with these, and we did see Beastie get taken down today by Wham. So the big question is going to be is how much of a flurry, whatever you want to call it, is he going to come back in this series against ZertoN?
Yeah, I mean, let's take a look if we have Group B updated. I'm really curious to see if, wherever Wham is in the standings, he might have destiny in his hands. I mean, it could be a situation where as long as he just wins his games, he might end up in the playoffs. We see the Group B plays from today. We see Beastie took down Eliona and did have that game against the Wham, that 2-1 that we saw. B coming in pretty clutch, got a couple wins. You love to see it. Anatan, we watched that one series against Baltoon. Baltoon ended up taking a 2-1, a rather up knockdown, drag out kind of series. Then Anatan getting a 2-1 over ZertoN, who we're going to see today. It's going to be wild.
And look at Balton cleaning up another series, took down Kiljardi, who I think B is about to face off against. Anatan was able, like you said, 2-1 ZertoN and lost to Lucifron. So this kind of top side of the bracket is I feel like it's weird seeing B in the bottom 5, but he obviously only 2 losses are against these top 2, and so maybe we'll be rising the ranks coming here soon. But overall, we're about to jump on into BC versus ZertoN. I'm sure the timer is now getting a little bit closer to fruition here for this first game, the first series, and oh my, it is close. It is. We're in it essentially.
Oh no, we don't got time to breathe. I'm hearing game sounds. Scouts are running around trying to find sheep. Beastie, Mongols playing as the color red, spawning on the western side of the gorge. And ooh, look at that spawn. That is a tasty Mongolian spawn, ladies and gentlemen. His opponent playing as the Ayabids in the color blue. It is ZertoN with a spawn not as good. However, Mongols, we talked about this. We saw a matchup similar to this, and we haven't seen this exact one. I can't quite remember, but Mongols can take it to you in Dark Age. That's for sure.
Yes, they can, and I love it. So Beastie, he's sending that villager out. He's like, you're going to be building the barracks, and you don't want to waste any time, so you always want to just find any resource that's nearest to the Uvu and grab it. Usually food's your biggest priority. Yeah, I get he didn't spot the deer near enough to it, so just grabbing a tree for the time being until those other 5 villagers drop off so he can get the barracks in production, get that tower rush going.
Yep, and good call. Barracks coming down. He's gonna start it. I'll tell you what. Some of the civilizations that I love, love, love to watch from BC. One being HRE, which we saw in the prior series. Second being Mongols, and especially against a civilization that tries to get to Castle Age as quickly as possible, like the Ayyubids. For the Mongols, this is a matchup and a civilization they probably love to face because they can do some damage to them as early as possible. Again, as Mongols from second one, you're trying to get your opponent under duress.
Oh, and we see Beasty scout out the scout and the con kind of just merge pass and go off on their other directions. But where Beasty can take advantage of is where the two locations are as far as the primary resources for ZertoN. He's going to be able to drop an outpost, most likely deny gold as well as the berries in the center. And that's what Ayyubids love to be on early on. Like, yeah, you have sheep to fall back to, but you want to be on the berries.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, if you have a choice, no doubt. And now with the spawn that he has, you're right. He can put a tower right in the center. Spearman going to be able to help him out, create a little bit of an escort. ZertoN looks like he did get the gold he needed because he's sitting at about 1. And will go up to the field age, but this is just going to make sure that he's going to need another 600 to get to Castle Age, right? So that's what this tower is going to do for him.
Yep, and spears, they're just going to go force those villagers off of the berries. Huh? ZertoN just reacted, moved them on over to the other berry patch, but I was about to say, I think they're still not quite in TC range, so does pull back, goes on over to the sheep, and Beasty, he's going to get this outpost up and deny that gold, really delay what Ayyubids wants to do, which is gather a lot of gold early and get to Castle Age.
And this is pretty interesting too, because Beasty is making more spearmen than I expected. You know, usually for the Mongols, you make 2 sets of 2, right? You get those 4 spearmen, and then you're going to be able to escort that villager to make a tower. He's making 5, and also queued his 6th. So he's going to continue to pack on a little bit of pressure in Dark Age. And, you know, I mean, this forces for, if you're a ZertoN, this is going to force you to do things that you didn't want to do. You know, you're going to go up with the military wing and, you know, get a Desert Raider. Desert Raider is all well and good, but it's not necessarily going to take down a tower or take down all those spearmen. It might force ZertoN to get some units in feudal age.
Yep, and let's see if Beasty is just going to head on home with that villager, or if he wants to, like, circle around, maybe drop an outpost on the wood line is my thought. Because on this map specifically, that initial wood line is, like, your heart and soul. Like, if you notice, we see Beasty on, like, the smaller wood line in the center. You can't use that for the whole, like, length of the game. But, oh, he's just doubling up. He says, all right, you're going to want this gold at some point, right?
This is like when we watched Recon before. Maybe he'll add a 3rd one. We'll see. But having those couple towers, I mean, and this is really important about doing something on Gorge, because look at where all those resource nodes are. That other gold all the way in the back. ZertoN has to go all the way to the northern tip of the map almost to get some more gold. And I think for Beasty, as all good aggressive players usually are, you got to be thinking, okay, I stopped the first node. Now, where is my opponent going to go? And you want to find some of those other gold mines. You want to make sure you wreak havoc on those as well.
Yep, well, Deerstones is on its way, and ZertoN has now safely gone over to the other gold, at least for the time being. He's dropping, is that double stables from ZertoN? Yeah. I'm not sure about that, but okay.
Yeah, I think he might have his mind set on Castle Age before he's anywhere near hitting the button, because I'm thinking, like, yeah, you might be able to do Camel Lancers or whatever, but it looks like, I mean, I do see, Dabston, I do see one in the queue for the Desert Raiders. He's not making those willingly, right?
I think he is.
Oh, God, help me. I don't know how good that's going to
be. And we're able to get a little bit of damage. Khan spots out those villagers on the gold, and ZertoN just says, all right, you found me. All right, I'm leaving. Oh, maybe not. Oh, smack that sheep. Smack that sheep. Yeah. He doesn't quite have enough for an outpost. I think his plan now is just to wait for one little drop off, get an outpost on over there as well. And there, what a weird location for an outpost.
Hey, as long as it's there. You know, look at this cheeky play with the boar. He's pulling the pork over, and it looks like, yeah, those villagers are going to get hit by it.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Don't do it! Oh, he takes it down! That thing, I mean, that boar was on a mission.
And you know the worst part of it, Ayubids can't even gather from it. That's haram. You can't harvest from that boar. So there's nothing you can do. Villager going down means one less on gold. Trying to get that outpost up. This has been just. This is one of those things. It's just so like even to watch it, you have to feel for ZertoN. He's probably annoyed to all hell.
Yeah, this is pretty disastrous going on here early on. It looks like Beasty's sending some spears on over to that location. I believe Outpost will be up, and not only Outpost, we have 5 Desert Raiders out. So usually you're like, oh, he's only gonna have a few Desert Raiders. Oh, don't step into spears! I guess he wants the con that bad, but the con use maneuver error should be able to outrun those at least for a good little bit. And this is just not feeling too great.
I mean, I do understand the Desert Raiders because Beasty's making predominantly spearmen, right? So you're going to be able to kite them and you're going to be able to do that kind of stuff. But, I mean, it's not like Beasty isn't going to make a different unit.
And there's their archer.
Right. So, like, at these Desert Raiders, we talked about, you know, how you get free ones from the military wing. They're 180 total resources a pop. Like, if you're making Desert Raiders consistently, you're sitting in feudal for a while.
Yes, you are, but maybe he's making more Desert Raiders as it looks like another one's in queue.
Yeah, and he's going to continue to. I mean, that one gold mine, the thing that's not great for ZertoN is, yeah, exactly that.
No.
That's exactly what I was going to talk about. If he wants more villagers on gold, if he wants to change his macro, that means they're going to have to do a pilgrimage.
Beasty, though, looks like he's getting his Uvu denied. He will spot out the 6 more villagers moving over to that gold location, but I don't know what he can actually do about it at this point because he's making Spear Archer, and he's not going to be able to really move out with a mass against Desert Raiders. So as much as we've kind of talked some smack, like, oh my gosh, here's another village. Okay, well, he's able to get another villager with some spear raiding. But as much as we've talked smack about the Desert Raider play, it kind of denies what Beasty's doing at this point in time. And ZertoN can still go up to castle here at this point in the near future.
Oh yeah, there is an opportunity for him to. You know, I mean, he definitely can't take a battle straight up, right? I mean, he's gonna have to try to kite some of those archers, kite some of those spearmen, but I mean, ZertoN, it seems like based on the way he's macroing, the way he's saved up that much food, you know, he's got about 750. He's using those Desert Raiders as a means to an end, right? I mean, so he's just making like maybe 1 or 2 more, if any, more to try to get him up there. But man, this gold,
He's finally done with those spears, and Beasty's about to send his next little grouping of a mass. Now that there's 8 archers, though, the Desert Raiders actually can't step up to snipe the spears. Oh, did he just miss? Oh no, he just checked that Uvu and barely missed it right as the villagers go out.
That's just lucky. You know, make it. I mean, sometimes you win. I mean, you win some, you lose some. You know, and now ZertoN, he's probably never going to check that stone mine again. So he's going to continue to get some of that stone production while Beasty on the back end, Deerstone's helping him out with a little bit of speed, right? Making sure he can get there. ZertoN, look at that wall, Dabs, on the northern side. Look at all that.
You gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah, I know.
He better hurry up on that wall as the main massive Beasty is headed that way. And if he doesn't finish the wall before Beasty gets there, he's losing 3 to 5 vills minimum.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, this goes to show, we talked about the Ayubids before in past series. Yeah, you got the Castle Age, or you hit the button to get the Castle Age. But if you're continuing to get your resources denied, you just made a fancy wing on your House of Wisdom. You didn't actually do anything.
And that is now where at least some of the Desert Raiders spot out some of the reinforcing units, but villagers, they get spotted. There's 2 outposts though. I thought there was only one. He did invest into a second one. And the wall looked like it was somewhat close to finishing, so maybe ZertoN can breathe. I don't think he's going to be able to.
No, there's still a big hole on the eastern side of that wall, and a wall is only as strong as your biggest hole in it. So that's going to be a rather weak wall. Those outposts are going to be able to help, you know, take down a couple of these spearmen.
I don't think this is good by Beasty. There's only like 4 spears there.
Yeah, he's not going to be able to torch that in time. But ZertoN did hit the button. You know, he did go up to Castle Age, so we're going to see if he can actually do something. He's trying to get his way back into the game economically by getting some raids over there with some Desert Raiders. It looks like he might take down 1 ish villager. Economic count surprisingly stable.
Yeah, he's on top of the Uvu again, so delaying Beasty. But what I'm more scared of for Beasty is that he started on that front wood line. Look at his back wood line. I don't know if there's any outposts on it.
There's none.
Oh my gosh, that could just be devastation.
Yeah, honestly, if anything, that's more ballsy than trying to pick that off. Now, Desert Raider is going to find these berries, and all he needs to do, all ZertoN needs to do is to work his way back there, because all of the wood that Beasty's getting, he's using to continue to be aggressive with. He got an outpost over here on this front side. It's going to help him out, second outpost as well. But he spent a decent amount of resources on a ram trying to take down those outposts. If he does take down those outposts and a lot of those villagers on the northern side, this could spell doom.
Yeah, it looks like ZertoN's coming back with the Desert Raiders to try to clear up these rams. There's just so many archers there. The Desert Raiders aren't going to do too much, and this is right as he's going up to castle. He just needs to be able to delay, wait a little bit for Camel Lancers to be able to come out, but Beasty, with this timing, it's just too much, and there's one villager down, there's two villagers down, there's almost a third that's going to fall.
Oh man, those Desert Raiders finally get there in time. I hope they get their swords out to try to take down this ram, but they're going to see the Trojan horse that's there. Oh, all of them pop out. Desert Raider ends up going down. See, the thing of it is, these Desert Raiders, they can kite things like the spearmen and the archers, but the point of interest is a stationary point. So you can't really kite anymore.
Yeah, and the Rams now able to attack. ZertoN just sends the villagers back onto the gold. Some villagers are sitting there rebuilding the outpost while the archers are just firing on it, and ZertoN is just bleeding vill after vill after vill. All of a sudden, the growth wing of the 8 villagers doesn't matter. He's still down 2.
Yeah, that's that's the wildest thing about this, right? Is ZertoN just got 8 villagers handed to him, and he's still behind. So you showed how good Beasty was at being aggressive. You know, that first tower set the tone, and then where is he going to go next? Right to this gold mine. He made that a point of interest for basically the past, I want to say 6 or 7 minutes, maybe even more. And now Beasty has a villager lead, obviously 41-38. Military lead by impressive numbers, 16-10. ZertoN's trying to make Camel Lancers. In Castle Age, Beasty already has 10 spearmen.
ZertoN has 3 military units out, and not a great feeling. Beasty's almost going up to Castle Age himself, and he's got so much invested in the outpost already that 2 Camel Lancers can't even dive that, can't really do any actual economic damage. So it feels like this is just kind of a ticking time bomb, and that's just testament to how well Beasty played this early game with aggression.
Yeah, and I mean, that's kind of... See, the thing of it is, people talk about civs like the Delhi Sultanate being so linear. The Ayabids feel pretty linear right now as well. We kind of knew what they were going to do before they even got there. ZertoN sending more villagers over to that north gold mine because he's going to need to make these gold-heavy units. They're going to need to make things like Camel Lancers. If he wants to make more Desert Raiders, he might have the opportunity to do that. So this has just been ZertoN from the second one, again, not being able to get his feet out from under him. Beasty is going to be able to get to Castle Age pretty smoothly without any kind of worker kills or economic destruction. He's going to go up with the step readout.
Yeah, and he's not even on that vulnerable wood line anymore. He's just basically going to be sitting all onto food and gold, and that's all he needs to win and close out this game now.
Yeah, as long as he gets Castle Age units, right? As long as he gets upgrades on them. Because ZertoN, like, the thing that's keeping him in the game is the age discrepancy, right? The fact that he has one age up and he's going to be making Castle Age units. Beasty now with the ability to do so. He's never going to be able to take a straight up fight. He already has spearmen. He could do things like add crossbowmen. It's going to be tough.
Yep. Stepward out, almost finishing. Beasty getting textiles too, so knows that, you know, hey, if there's one way for ZertoN to come back into this game, it is going to be picking off some villagers in different spots of the map, and got to make it that much harder.
Yeah, I mean, ZertoN definitely has an uphill road. You know, I mean, he's trying to do some kind of raids to get back in too, but I mean, look at in the beginning, that Mongolian spawn, right? You had the gold right next to that front wood line, so he was able to park his town center there, you know? So just in terms of trying to get any kills at all, it wasn't there.
Yeah, I felt like there were a couple times where ZertoN had some opportunities. If he had a scout with that Desert Raider mask, when we saw the Uvu barely, you know, be able to get built back up, and we saw a ton of villagers going over to the wood that ZertoN never spotted when he was roaming the base with camels and whatnot. But ultimately, still comes back, circles around, and wants to end up taking down that Uvu, starting to try to burn down that barracks. And Beasty, he's got 8 crossbows to deal with the Camel Lancer masses. The spears, I'm sure ZertoN won't ever try to take a head-on engagement into those.
No, because I mean, there's no way for you to. There's no possibility for you to. And it looks like ZertoN's making an army composition change as well, and going with a couple archers. And now, 16.5 minutes in the game, he's been Castle Age for a decent amount of time. Now, finally starting to get some dervishes out and starting to get some of these relics. But I mean, they're right for the taking for Beasty too. I can see a couple shaman that's in his queue.
Yeah, I mean, somehow, some way, Beasty's up 2 villagers in this course of the game. It feels like he should be up like 10, and that's just because of the growth wing, some other things that kind of were involved. But ZertoN has somewhat stabilized and has been able to breathe for the last minute, 2 minutes, and just like you said, grabbing relics and kind of starting to play this longer game now.
Yeah, it's been kind of nice for him, isn't it? I mean, his military count's starting to go up. He's able to use his resources pretty effectively. What's really nice is he still has the mobility of those camel lancers. There are so many camels out there. You know, some archers, some crossbowmen might be able to take hits on them. One goes down, but he's still able to move. You know, he's still able to move to make sure he's not taking that fight. But we all know from the Mongols, especially when you get to Castle Age, they get this death ball. Right? A lot of ranged units. They get a lot of things like spearmen, men-at-arms. They could do things like build siege on the battlefield if they get advanced siege engineering. And it's just not a fight that ZertoN can take, and I don't know if he ever will be able to take it.
Yeah, and that's just the eco difference there, because you can't forget Beasty. He's getting, you know, essentially all of his gold villagers are better, just because of the step root out. He's had a lot more time with all these techs, as we've just now seen ZertoN get the eco techs in, getting his wheelbarrow, getting his food upgrade, whereas Beasty, he's got double broad axe and lumber preservation. He's got wheelbarrow in for a significant period of time, getting, you know, all the blacksmith upgrades too.
And, you know, I will say, let's not forget about the economic prowess that actually DrDabston has. Like, yeah, it makes your military units move faster, but it makes your villagers move faster, too. It's almost like a pseudo-wheelbarrow. So those Mongolian villagers, they aren't just normal villagers. They move a little bit quicker next to the DrDabstons, and with the step readout, they're able to gather more. But it looks like ZertoN finally trying to take down these outpost spearmen, are trying to take down some camel lancers. And honestly, those spears, even though that outpost is going down, they got pretty good value.
That was a huge win for Beasty. He took down 2 camel lancers for this. Like, that's massive, and he might even taken down more. Good spotting by ZertoN to take down the shaman, moving out to try to take the sacred site for Beasty, and somehow Beasty has continually just been able to spot out villager after villager, and just like all these little spots that ZertoN's tried to expand on out to. He's had a good eye of it, but I say that until now, ZertoN's going all the way for Beasty's deer.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I'm glad he's got an outpost there. At least, I'm probably gonna help him out and probably see where the step readout is. But those villagers, they can't be too long for this world. Look at the range mass that ZertoN actually has. Spearman, crossbowman, able to take down a couple camel lancers. Those are rather expensive units, but ZertoN's got 20-some archers. Oh, yeah, they can't even get the outpost. Yeah,
and those were not the only vills headed that way. I think there was another 10 or so upright. Oh, 5 more. Just no. And Beasty's moving forward with his main military mass. There's not enough archers here for ZertoN. He is kiting. He's doing a great job doing it, but right now they're hitting the con, and every time they turn to hit the con, they get hit. Beasty doing the, I'm going to do a couple Wololos to get your attention. I believe ZertoN has a camel lantern in the wood line.
Oh, looks like it.
I said it though, and right as I said it, Beasty heard me say it and reacted to it, but it wouldn't have been enough to make a difference here. Villagers just circle on around, and Camel Lancer falls. Beasty has a huge military mass, and ZertoN basically has nothing.
Yeah, and I mean, he's trying to get a bigger military mass, but his villagers are traversing the entire diameter of the map. So it's very difficult for you to get any kind of resources or any kind of, you know, just about anything, just based on what ZertoN is trying to do with his economy. Beasty, as you can see, he's got the Q. He's continuing to make units over and over again. ZertoN continuing to struggle.
You know what's hilarious is ZertoN has literally gone to every single gold vein on his side of the map. He's been on every one. And
Yep.
Beasty has denied him off of everyone, as now he's going over to this 8K one on the east, and once he finds that one, I think ZertoN might just throw in the towel after this onslaught that Beasty has just never let up with after the first 2 outposts went up.
Yeah, and I mean, Beastie does a great thing, you know? I mean, he knows that ZertoN's got to be going out to get the gold somewhere. It's got to be somewhere. Might as well check all of them. You know, he just sends a couple units in that particular direction, and I think I do see a battle icon over there on the eastern side. Yep, found that one as well. Man, just have all you got to do is send 1 or 2 units to cause that much duress. It's massive.
Yep. And just BC doing all the right things, just splitting off 1, 2, 5 units here and there while his main mass stays healthy, stays together, and takes the good trades, while all the other ones, yeah, they might be dying, but they're taking economic trades. They're taking down villagers. They're pulling ZertoN's army away from this mid-map to where BC gets just to continue to take more and more and more control.
And then even, you know, pulling the deer stones all the way up too is really going to help him out, just to make sure those units, he has a lot of units, actually all of his units are on foot, probably besides the con, so he needs that extra mobility, and deer stones is going to give him the opportunity to do that. Now food is becoming an issue for ZertoN. I mean, he didn't necessarily have the best in the way of food because he was trying to get those deer over the way on the western side. Now he's trying to get his friendly deer. Beastie has to be able to see it just because those deer going down, and that might be his next move.
Yep. And now, I mean, this is just, we're waiting, watching, being patient for Beastie to close out this game, but he is being patient. He's not overstepping. He's not, you know, diving too far under TC fire, taking bad trades. He's just playing the slow, playing the smart game here.
Yeah, because, I mean, there is such a thing as overextension. I think there was that fight where there were some camo lancers, and if he walks into that Manjanique, that could be an issue. That ranged mass does take a pretty good hit, but they're overall going to stay survive. There's a lot of shaman in the background for the Mongolians. Not something that we're really used to. Those villagers are getting caught right, traversing right next to that Mongolian army. Oh, Jesus. This is devastating.
Yep, and there is finally where ZertoN closes out the game. He says, all right, you got me on this one. Let's just move past this game. And I'm sure I would want to move past this one too if I were him, as that was not fun. He had to just deal with pings all over the map. And I think it might have even just started from the first boar kill would have tilted me from the start. So just think that is where this all began. It was the boar kill, and then it was just over from there. That's definitely, I'm blaming it on that.
Yeah, that that really sets the tone, doesn't it? You know, for a minute 3, you get that, and you know, again, shout out to Vodka because we had, you know, units in all different directions from BC. He does that so very well, and Vodka was able to click on and touch on each individual one of them. So big shout out to him. We see the military count graph and the villager count. Military, I mean, ZertoN was just never able to mess up. Yeah, he got to Castle Age early, but wasn't able to get all the lancers, wasn't able to get all that Castle Age equipment for actually taking the battle to Beastie. So good job by him. 1-0 in favor of Beastie, and we're going to be heading on to game 2.
Yep. It looks like the rest of the groups have kind of played on out. This is the last series of the day that we are waiting to complete, and Coastal Cliffs will be game number 2. There could be a game 3. We don't know yet, but Coastal Cliffs, we have Delhi, which I have seen picked quite a bit on Coastal Cliffs. And on the other side, Zushi, which I have not seen as often on this map.
And you know, you understand the Delhi pick, right? Because the map is smaller, right? You can get to your sacred sites pretty quickly. You know, you can do things like raid. You know, mobility is a big deal for you, and Ghazi Raiders are going to be a mainstay for Beastie in this matchup. ZertoN, on the other hand, as Zushi, this is something that we watched the Delhi versus China matchup. I don't think we've seen Delhi versus Zushi yet. When it comes to Zushi, you get those Zug Nu as soon as you hit feudal age, which means your tempo is a little bit better than the Chinese counterpart.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of those that technically, if you want, you can just continue to mass up unit after unit after unit. And the good thing about Coastal Cliffs that on other maps would be a downfall for Zushi is they don't have to worry as much about their lack of mobility. You don't have these sacred sites in opposite corners of the map that you have to take a minute and a half, you know, moving from one to the other. it's a little bit more centralized. It's a little bit more condensed. You remember, a third of this map's inaccessible by that water. Beautiful view, beautiful look, but all it's doing is making a little bit of a smaller battlefield.
Yeah, and raising the property value, right? Being
Ah,
a
of course.
being that beachfront property. So 30 seconds going into this game. I mean, we watched the Beasty play Delhi and actually deal with, if I remember correctly, dealing with Wham's Chinese pretty well in one of our prior series. Let's see if he can do the same thing against Sushi's Legacy. Now, again, these resources might be a little bit more closer together. We might see a little bit better of a meditation gardens. We'll see if BC is able to disturb that piece as our time starts ticking down. I'm ready to go. This is match point for Beastie.
It is indeed match point, potentially last game of the day, although we might not want it to be. We have Beastie spawning in the southwest side as the Delhi in the color red, ZertoN in the northeast as Zushi's Legacy in the color blue, and we are on coastal cliffs.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing we're going to take a look at those beautiful snapshots that Vodka's showing us of these cliffs. Nice beachfront property if you decide to build your houses over there. But both these players will be not doing that, as we see that typical Delhi build. Going to be able to get things like their efficient production. Going to be able to get their wheelbarrow very quickly. Zushi on the other side, typical Chinese start. Chinese or Zushi is going to want to put that mill there. So we talked about this matchup a little bit. But I think one of the things for Delhi that might prove to be a little difficult is only 2 sacred sites here.
Yes and no. Like the way I look at Delhi is if you're securing the sacred sites, you're securing 2 of them and you're happy. Like, and you kind of have like the third usually on bigger maps. It's like harder to control anyways. Well, these are 2 central sacred sites. They're pretty close proximity to each other. So if you have a military mass, if you have like the advantage as far as that goes, you can easily secure those, and having the lack of gold of the third one isn't a big deal. It's you're still starting a timer earlier and kind of making sure your opponent has to react to those as well.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, less points of interest, and I think for the Delhi too, if you're able to get those sacred sites, it might be a little bit easier to wall. You could do things like get a sacred site victory with 2 sacred sites. I remember seeing those age-old. This is like season 0, season 1, when King of the Hill was the meta, or was part of the ranked ladder. And I remember people that would cheese and play Delhi, just get that 1 sacred site and then stonewall up until that point. I don't know if you've ever had the experience of playing one of those games, but it was not fun.
I definitely remember those games. They're not enjoyable by any means. I've also remembered playing them in team games where one person would be Delhi and the other one's like Mongol Delhi in China, and it's like Mongol Dark Age outpost the middle with spears, and then China drops a Barbican, and then Delhi's capturing it, and you're like, are you kidding me? You're like, what do we do?
So
with this?
miserable.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're playing threes, don't take that strat. It's not fun to play or against. But anyways, now looking into this game, we're about to start seeing feudal ages dropped in the second. We see the meditation gardens dropped on the southern side. I think it's getting double gold and the massive wood line.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, pretty solid location there. As nothing to complain about by any means. And Beastie is going with the Tower of Victory exactly as we would be expecting.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely need to. I mean, we talked about how Dome has fallen out of favor just because, scholars don't heal as much as they used to. The acting as a mosque isn't really that big of a deal and all that kind of stuff. But Tower of Victory, especially when you're up against a Civ that statistically has better archers than you need to make your archers somewhat viable. So Tower of Victory is going to help you.
Exactly. Not only makes the archers viable, it makes spears better. It makes every one of those infantry units a little bit better. But ZertoN's dropping early walls in between the 2 wood lines, which I like a lot. It makes it much harder to kind of get into that base. And if he drops a wall on the east side, there's so many resources behind all of that. I mean, whether he moves up and does it on the wood line or if he drops it in front of where his meditation gardens is, he's got double deer, he's got the berries, and just a ton of resources for the long haul.
Yeah, man, everything he needs is packed on that east side. This is such a such a weird map spawn because on the western side there's like nothing. And Beasty, I know his scout, as you can see it on the minimap, is going on that western side of ZertoN's base, and he's going to be like, this is the emptiest cliff I've ever seen in my life.
I mean, yeah, it's pretty barren over there. Not too many resources except for stone. There's that one stone vein that's quite far off, and he's gonna be like, okay, well, I need to focus that east. And ZertoN, he does indeed go for the walls right in front of the meditation gardens, and getting those built early on as well.
Yeah, I feel like you kind of have to. I mean, Beasty going with the blacksmith first, and we've watched him play the Delhi Sultanate, and you know he goes for that blacksmith first. But next one, I mean, in terms of military production building, probably your first one might end up being the stable, because you're going to want Ghazi Raiders. You're expecting things like Zugnu. You can get mobility. You can get villager kills, that kind of stuff. So him walling early just makes sure that he stays preserved.
And not only is it one blacksmith, he's going for the double blacksmith, as he knows there's not, you know, a bunch to worry about. He doesn't need to get units out, and once he needs to get units out, he can start building them quite quickly, as he will have efficient production.
Yeah, and this is the one thing that Delhi players are so good at doing. You know, they can bounce their scholars back and forth to the production buildings whenever they choose to make them. And it's nice with Beasty having another scholar, because he'll still have one if he wants to get all of those technologies like Sanctity, all of those blacksmith technologies, make it count, while also being able to produce at the same time. And that meditation gardens, as Vodka is so graciously pointing out to us, 50 gold per minute. That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's nothing to joke around about by any means. You can get some extra eco techs. You can get, I mean, with the amount of gold ZertoN has in the bank, I'd love to see him queue up wheelbarrow and double broadaxe. Oh, he already has double broadaxe. Wheelbarrow right now. And then just all the gold you can just utilize to help your troop production. Your one shoot that already popped out has pushed the scout into your base, and scout should just circle and get his way on out, because you do not want to get cornered. You want to continually having vision, continually be able to circle and scout your opponent, and that's where ZertoN, he's trying to cut off that scout but hasn't been able to do so.
Yeah, and I think this is really important for Beasty, because at least he knows where all the resources are, right? I mean, he can kind of deduce it because that left side was pretty much barren, but at least he has an idea of what's going on. Because for Zhu Shi, again, they are the child of Chinese, right? So food economy is going to be something that's going to be important to them later in the game. He has those deer spots that are really, really safe behind those walls. I think as long as ZertoN is able to take good fights against this feudal-age Delhi, he could be in a good spot.
Look, he's just continually trying to circle, trying to cut off that scout. He got close to doing it, but just wasn't quite in the perfect position. Beasty has started to go with Ghazi Raiders, has started to go with his own archers, and ZertoN is just a step ahead as far as the military mass goes, while also having a lot of his economy protected over the course of the next steps of the game.
Yeah, and that kind of gives him free reign, right? He doesn't need to have spearmen to be defensive, you know? I mean, obviously not around the mill or the gold mine, but when he starts moving, you know, he won't have to worry about it too much. You know, those walls are going to give him time, so his quote-unquote immobile army is going to be able to get there to the eastern side. But now this little part, this quote-unquote no man's land between both of these players, where both of these sacred sites are, these are where these big battles are going to happen. And I'm excited to see the first one. ZertoN doing a really good job of getting those blacksmith upgrades first before he takes a fight, gets that steeled arrow. So important for those Zugnu devs.
Oh, it is crucial. One of the villagers, though, that was a little bit off the beaten path, almost gets taken out, but Beasty knows that if he ended up taking another swing, those Ghazi Raiders and Scout would probably end up falling.
Yeah, I mean, they absolutely would. I think one of the things about Zushi, too, because we talk about the Zugnus over and over again, even though the Ghazi Raiders do exist for the Delhi Sultanate, I don't think Palace Guards are anything to sniff at. I think if you integrated them with Spearmen, they could end up being okay, or at least give you that little bit of damage reduction against those Spearmen, because you got to focus on the Spearmen instead. So first Sacred Site ended up getting capped on the eastern side. Looks like ZertoN's army is not going to be able to get there, but I think if he does take a fight, when it does get here, he might be pretty good shape.
And Beasty already having to move off of his original berries, has to go all the way to that southern side to the other berries. So we're going to start seeing some vulnerability in Beasty's food eco. ZertoN doesn't have like mobility to go raiding. So the only way you really see any damage there is if he just splits off a couple chooks and you know, sends them to some different locations, which we have seen some players do. I think of like Balltoon earlier today against Anatam with English, where he like split off 3 or 4 longbows. While you don't think of them as a raiding unit, he was able to get a good amount of damage done, and you could see the same here potentially.
Yeah, especially if you put them in a couple different areas. You know, if you go on the wood line, if you go on that kind of stuff, villager actually going to end up taking down. I think he ends up getting stuck. And it looks like those Ghazi Raiders are going to be able to escape. 2 of them going to be able to go out. But yeah, exactly. With those Zugnu, you just send 2 or 3. The wood line, you know, maybe the gold mine, maybe a berry patch or something like that. It could be devastating.
Yep. Scout got taken out though, so Beasty will no longer have some knowledge and information of what ZertoN is doing on the side behind the walls. Unless the Ghazi Raiders can provide that information, but I wouldn't be surprised to see those get cleaned up. And nope, Beasty made another scout, so that he should be able to get that into the mix, give himself that vision that he needs with his main army.
Yeah, definitely heads up play to make that scout, because you got to know from when you're facing against a unit like Zugnu that are as damage provoking as they are, you gotta take count of how many are there. You know, you can't go into fights blind. And it looks like ZertoN's looking to take a fight. Beasty doesn't want it. He's trying to back up just a little bit, and you know, I don't blame him.
Yeah, I mean, ZertoN has a huge mass here to basically counteract everything. Beasty would have to dive that chook backline with the Ghazi Raiders, but by the time they try to circle, by the time they would get enough damage done, they'd probably be gone. And that's not even talking about the spears. I'm just talking about some chook trades. Beasty trying to get some walls up, actually giving himself some bad positioning. Archers had to walk around the half-built walls, and a few more went down than needed.
Yeah, that was pretty good for ZertoN. Just trying to limit that Delhi Archer mass as much as he possibly can. And we're looking at Archer on both sides, obviously 20 favor of Beasty and 32 for ZertoN. He was able to decap that eastern sacred site as well, so that gold trickle isn't there. Beasty is pretty much committed to feudal, as all Delhi are. Zushi, though, he's able to kind of stockpile a little bit of resources.
Yeah, it looks like ZertoN's thinking about a Castle Age play while also having a bigger mass than Beasty. Bigger isn't always better, as Beasty does have the higher value units of Ghazi Raiders. Seeing them burn down this wall in the east, so that quote-unquote safe food eco that I was saying for ZertoN is no longer, as the 2 deer packs, the berries over here are completely free for raiding from Beasty's Ghazi Raiders, which we've seen how much damage he does with those with the matchups earlier today.
Yeah, and at least they could do a little bit of disturbing the peace out of that meditation gardens on the eastern side if they continue to be there. But it looks like that wall is continuing to be difficult to actually get up. And I know there's a good berry patch there that he really wants. There's some gold mines that are over there. ZertoN just hitting at just the right spots to make sure that hole is there.
Oh, there's the chook raid. This is what I was talking about. It's so the key importance here. So ZertoN knew that Beasty wasn't on those front berries that he kept aggressing. So he knows Beasty's somewhere on food, and that's why he splits off a few chooks to go over to this location. They will get cleaned on up, but this is where the knowledge, the information that he just gathered. He's like, all right, Beasty, he's spread a little bit thin onto these food resources. ZertoN does need to deal with a little bit of some Ghazi Raider raiding at home, but a few of the spears not taking the worst trades, even though they all died. And the Shaolin Monastery is on its way. 7 villagers on it. And he rebuilt the walls.
Wow. Those villagers are quite annoying to deal with too, because they just create that little bit of defensive attitude where you're able to pop into those villages whenever something else is going on. But with that Shaolin Monastery going up, Beasty, I mean, he had to continue to make units over and over and over again to try to get some map control, to try to get something like Sacred Sites. It didn't feel like it developed very well for him. ZertoN didn't need to make that much. And then the Meditation Gardens is helping him with that little bit of passive income, right? So ZertoN hitting that Castle Age, he'll be first crack at relics. Maybe he can get the Sacred Sites by himself. He gets the Castle Age Zug technology. It's just, it's all going downhill.
The biggest thing for me, we saw, I think Wham was the one who overstepped in the game against Delhi earlier, where we're like, there's this timing now that Beastie, even if he matches Castle Age, it's going to take him a while to get the techs he needs. Oh, Imperial Official jumps on in as well. It's going to take him a while to get techs he needs. So that is where ZertoN jumped out a little bit early there. That is where Delhi has a lot of vulnerability into this early Castle Age play. Like, they're strong in early Castle Age when they get their techs in, when they're the ones castling first. But ZertoN still doesn't have a lot to show for his Castle Age yet. He's waiting for the techs. He's waiting for Steeled Arrow. He's getting forced off of the deer that he just had moved on over to, and the immobile army is not really in the greatest positioning for him.
No, it's right near the original town center. And I mean, yeah, it will make its way over, but a lot of villagers get some idle time. There's some Gaudi Raiders that were previously raiding over there on the north side, trying to take down some of those villagers. Beastie finally has that map control just because all of that immobile army, like you talked about, is all the way up on top, and he's trying to get some quick walls. Not quick enough, though.
Not quick enough, as he can't commit to those walls because the Chooks would absolutely shred the archers, trying to burn the mill, trying to do some sort of damage on the way out. But anytime he stops, this allows this Chook mass to get an extra volley in, and they do so much damage. He does not want to overkill though, so he wants to spread this out, and I think this is a fine fight. He has veterancy, I believe.
Yeah, I think he does. I think his spearmen are also of the Castle Age variety, so if he wants to take this fight, he can. Beasty's trying to macro at the same time. It looks like a decent amount of those spearmen end up going down. Those Tower of Victory archers actually helping him out. He does have the military count lead. This is an age-old quality over quantity at this particular juncture. It looks like those spearmen trying to get those Ghazi Raiders some reinforcements up on the south side. Beasty doing a good job microing against those spearmen. And I think, you know, even though this is technically a hold for ZertoN, I think this was a very good fight by Beasty.
Yeah, I think this could have gone a lot worse for Beastie looking back at it. He's still taking decent trades here. There's not a huge Chook mass, and that's really where the Chooks are scary. It's not when there's 10, 15 of them. It's when there's 40, 50, and ZertoN does not have food. This is where what I kept saying, like, he needed to keep this location secured, and he hasn't been able to do so. Villagers pulling out the shivs. Villagers are going for the archers as well. There's nothing to defend up the Chooks here anymore, and there's 17 food per minute for ZertoN. This is game over.
Yeah, this is not going to happen. He's got nothing. Oh my God. Unbelievable.
I
2-0.
mean, again,
Beasty.
that's twice where I felt like Beastie, like, with the Delhi timing, he wasn't Castle. His opponent got Castle Age upgrades, but Beastie just took good fights. Tower of Victory archers, was able to take out all the spears and use the Ghazi Raiders to just their fullest effect. So really, really nice game there by Beastie, as I did not think he was going to be able to, well, especially close it out as quick as he did. I thought that if that game extended any longer, that ZertoN could have been in a fine opportunity. But look at that flat line from ZertoN right before Castle. It's because he ran out of food. He had nothing.
Yeah.
He literally had nowhere to gather from anymore.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about that spawn in Dark Age. We were like, yeah, you just wall up, you know, and things are safe or whatever. Beastie's like, nah, I got another thing coming. We're gonna take down these walls. We're gonna take down all these villagers trying to get these deer and all this good stuff. And then it ended up suffocating China as a result. 2-0. Beastie takes the win, kind of licks his wounds after that series from Wham and able to take it to ZertoN in rather overwhelming fashion.